Excellent presentations this morning. Thank you very much for everybody's attention. We're going to have some time here for a little panel discussion. I'd like to yield to the floor first before I ask my gotcha questions. Does anybody have a question at the top of their mind that they'd like to ask? You know, when I was a professor, I would just call on students, but I won't do that here. I think you've all had the experience. All right, if you do have a burning question, just put your hand up and somebody will give me attention. Oh, yes.
Well, thank you so much for the excellent presentations and a lot of information. I would like to ask about the source of the numbers you showed with Russia. It was, of course, enormous.
These are from reports and academic articles, and I can share them.
So it's academic articles. It's very important, and I believe you agree with me that AI now is acting so fast on accelerating the economy and so on.
Yeah, definitely.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? If you do, just put your hand up. Okay. So, Professor Rasha, given the fact that human resources itself, and perhaps this is true for ERP systems and most other systems we implement, very rarely do we ever achieve the goals that we've set out when we acquire those systems and deploy them. Do you see a similar failure rate among AI implementations, not just by these scandals and some of the things that you wrote today, but I think an overall deployment of AI, say, in the next 5 years? Do you see a shortfall as just a natural part of that process?
Well, that's an excellent question, and especially that you brought up the enterprise systems, because yes, over the past years, what we've been experiencing and seeing in consultancy and in organizations, that most of the implementations fail to be implemented within the time frame and within the budget allocated. And when I say the majority, this has been as high as 85% and going down to 70-something, and now it's above 60%. So still most of the implementations, and that's worldwide, when it comes to governmental entities, they fail more, okay? Because they have a long process and they have a lot of things to consider, and the standardization thing, and things come on the fly. And so yes, AI is only one of the systems. It's the technologies. So if you're asking me about whether I see this to start being reported as failures in implementation, I can't agree more.
Good, thank you very much. Yesterday we talked about Web3 technologies and blockchain and the security aspects of that. And we know that we're going to fall short in the deployments. But the interesting thing is you phrased, and I think Professor Saeed also suggested this, AI is driving this development, not just human beings. Leadership will put on the brakes and govern that, but the technology itself will drive it. So as much as we see exponential improvement, we'll also see exponential failure. And that I think is frightening for a lot of people. We all didn't adopt Microsoft Word overnight. I mean, many of us used Lotus 1-2-3 and alternatives when they first came out. I think we can expect the same thing. What I think is a realistic expectation, though, is the acceleration of adoption. We don't have 20 or 40 years. In fact, COVID probably accelerated technology adoption itself by at least 20 years, given the remote and hybrid work requirements. And that's translated into training, which is going to bring me now to my good friend here, Professor Saeed. So Malaysia is a microcosm of basically the rest of the world. It is technology influence that we talked about for the first time. I've heard this, a quad helix. The fourth being the society itself, the individuals.
And the government as
Okay,
well.
so I've always looked at the government as one of the helices, right? So you have the government, industry, and academia.
And the community.
Now you have the community as a defined component. That's not very popular where I come from. That it's almost an afterthought. It seems like the triad is academia, industry, and government. When you have strong government, and that's very initiative focused and very responsive to the people. I think you can get away with some things that you can't in large bureaucracies, and that's all relative term. But education is our greatest force for progress. I've said that several times. I've always said that. I've said that for 40 years. But when we look at the literacy rate, and we talked about a digital competency set, we see, at least in North America, a decline in literacy, a decline in numeracy. I mean, we're graduating more people from high school that are dumber than ever before. I hate to say it that way. I will admit it that way. I don't know if those parallels are true in any other country as I've seen there. But you're building that fourth helix point, that community. How do you bring everybody up to that same level of proficiency? Is that a fair word? A competency is a competency even in degrees, right? Yes. I'm proficient, I'm superior, that sort of thing. How are you addressing that in the pre-secondary, secondary school education and prepping people for that entire lifting of the population?
Right, thank you. Very good question. Okay, you need to understand, basically, you can't just simply tell people AI transformation is coming, get ready. You need to get them to mentally prepare and realize that this is important. And that starts right from the primary school. So in each primary school level, we start including AI and certain things in the curriculum. For example, introducing them to labs. And in fact, some of the primary school students, the teacher will bring them to the university to see what they are doing there. And that's part of their KPI. That's how they introduce. And then they have clubs. And those clubs are designed with, you need to have like drones in the school so that the children know how to play with the drones, robotics. And these are the things that we do in primary and secondary level. And from there, when they come to the university, they have some idea, not the technical idea, but they have some idea about AI, cybersecurity, they know about industrial automation and so on. But once they come to the university level, the KPT will say, how do you construct your curriculum? You have the core modules. For example, if you teach logistics, so you have the logistic modules, but then you have management modules. You have MGTs, the management, and then you also have like history, maths, and so on. Plus, you must have modules related to innovation and technology. Now, once you have those and you map, so you have the entire program, you have program learning outcome, and then you have course learning outcome, so you need to map all these competencies. So when you include technology, every student who graduate will have some idea about technology, innovation, and all that. But that's not the challenge we are facing right now. The real challenge is the people who already graduate without having these competencies. And they are already in your workforce. How do you tackle these people? And that's where the Ministry of Human Resource, under the Ministry of HR, will come up with initiatives. We also have one more initiative which I did not mention during my presentation is called Per Queso. Per Queso, we train people who are unemployed. For example, if you've been unemployed for 6 months, it means that your skill, your competencies are not giving you jobs. And then you go into the portal, you apply for training programs. And then you do reskilling. And that's where, like I said, government must come and step in. So that's where we develop people who are jobless. We develop people who are under the MSME, which is the micro companies who doesn't have big funds. We also come up with SEBA, which is Senior Back in Action. We train different sort of people in different initiatives. We have MISI. MISI is basically for Indian community. Just like I presented Panaraju and Mara, this is for Malay community. So every community, we look after everybody. That's how we develop the human capital. And we must have human capital blueprints. You can do cluster-based by having industry-based, which means manufacturing might have their own blueprints. And yes, so you create different parallels. You can start by having industry labs, it doesn't cost that much of a money because you need to engage with your stakeholders. Your stakeholders will tell you the problems, the pains and gains that they want to have. Once your stakeholder give you that feedback, you just need to compile everything, go to the government and say, look, these are the issues, this is where you want to be, and this is what it will take to get you there. Without these key enablers, you're not going to go there. It's just going to be an academic debate forever.
And forever is a good word because lifelong learning is a continuous process.
Exactly.
So there is no incremental, fixed, finite step to get to where we want to be. It has to be an ongoing process, and therefore it has to include government, industry, and academic cooperation. Plus, organizations like HRD Corp,
Yes.
are they delivering the training?
They don't deliver, they are facilitators. So they have funds, they manage funds. We, as a training provider, we conduct training for the industry. Now here is one more thing I would like to add on. It's called micro-credentials. Micro-credentials are becoming very famous these days. They are, you see, for working people, they may not want to do 2 years or 3 years of academic program. They may just want to do 2 months short program. So what we do is we break down the entire 30 modules into micro-credentials. So industry people can come and attend those micro-credentials, and it can be done online or they can do at our campus. So not a problem.
Well, and the studies are showing that the return on investment of college education, at least as it's priced in the United States, is not a winner in terms of return on investment. It is actually certifications that are driving the employment market. We're looking less and less at university degrees, believe it or not, and more at professional credentialing. And those credentials are good because if they're like ours that we administer for IRM and Human Resource Information, we require what I call progressive professional development. They have to do so many continuing education credits every year and then recertify every 3 years, either by having accumulated their credits or by examination. And there's no ignoring any of this. I could go on for the rest of the day, but out of respect for everybody's time, Taha and her team who have done a wonderful job, I'd like to give them an applause. Absolutely fantastic. And out of respect for the people who put water and coffee out there, this would be a good time. May I disperse the group, or do you want to say goodbye for now? All right. Let's have our coffee break. Thank you very much, Professor Saeed.
Thank you.
Professor Rashad.
Thank you.
Wonderful. And thank you all for your attention.